Everyone, welcome to the SLOconf monthly of the June edition. I'm very excited to welcome all of you today, and I'm very excited to have a special speaker with us today. Today, we are joined by Wayne Major of Outsystems, and I'm really excited for all of you to hear his talk in just a little bit. But before that, I will go ahead and give an introduction of myself. My name is Erza. I work for a company called Noble 9, and I have been a part of this Meetup group for over 2 years. Here are some of my team members that have helped build up this Meetup. A huge shout out to Kit Merker, who started this back in December 2019. So we've been going on for a while. And then we have Zach Nickens, Steph Hippo, Dylan Zare of Google, Dan Wilson, and Kevin Schmidt. And the agenda for today is very simple. So we have I'm introducing Wayne in just a minute. Then we have the breakout room where we will have time to socialize and chat a little bit. We have a Q&A at the end, and then it's time for all of us to go separate ways. And first, I wanted to give a huge shout out to our SLOconf global captains. We have Ahi here with us today. We have Barhav from India, Abby Bangster from UK, and Kostya from Poland. So a huge thank you to all of them and the amazing work they do and contribution they add to this meetup. And then and now it's finally time for me to introduce you to Wayne Loud, a reliability engineer at Outsystems. Today, he will be talking about how to create a large number of SLOs automatically for a large number of assets within your organization. Wayne, whenever you're ready, feel free to take over the screen.
Sounds good. First, thank you for introducing me. Again, as you said, my name is Wayne Major. I'm the engineer at Outsystems. I'm based in Boston, and yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to get this presentation started. Again, this is the title. Well, this is pretty much the beginning of the presentation. My name, what my role is within Outsystems, and yeah. So yeah, let's go. I'm gonna go back quickly over what is AutoSLO. It's essentially, again, a series of automated processes which enables scalable creation of meaningful slows. And then we have 4 main pillars of AutoSLO. One is template hydration. The second one is service definition. Oh, sorry, I'll go back. Template hydration is essentially when we create a standardized in our case, we use Elasticsearch as our dating mining tool. And essentially what we do is we do a standardized generic YAML file for that. And what we do is we leave certain fields intentionally on that YAML file blank in order to populate it with specific data for specific clients that we have in mind. And then that's pretty much what we say when we talk about standard template hydration. When we say service definition, we're talking about you can come up with however you would like to decide what service definition, but in the context of how we do auto-slowing is essentially we use it based on clients, on what AKA what is our customer, what's our customer called, who is our customer. Project definition, in our case, we use it based on the different types of projects that we are currently supporting within Outsystems. So we have 4 products, and I mean, I can't tell you what I don't think that's public knowledge, but essentially we have a number of products within Outsystems. So we actually have projects based on those 4 projects. And then applying labels, which is essentially we can define how broad of a scope or how small of a scope that we want to go. So like applying labels. So you can do it within, say, I think, and Sal, correct me if I'm wrong at the end of the presentation, but I think we can narrow this down as like, say, from the project name, or we can do it as client name or even like environment name as well, and set it up that way. So yeah, those are 4 pillars. So for the workflow of AutoSLO, again, we actually have we have a client that would come in and say, hey, can we have a slow on front end availability of a front end server? So us as engineers, we say, yeah, we can definitely make that happen. So, and then we just need yeah, we can make that happen, but we will need the following pieces of information from you guys so we can actually get that going. And then that's where you see this workflow. This is where we say, what exactly do we need? And then do we have the required information? Once we have gathered everything that we need, then we go from there. Then we actually run the entire AutoSLO process via a GitHub action. And then via the GitHub action is where we actually use the Python source code to first connect to a, in our case, a Snowflake database, where it connects there. Then we get the specific data that we need for the SLO that we need to create. As you see right here, this is like just a generic bare bones. It's not actual information, but it's more like, okay, so we're doing what's the client name, or aka what's the customer, what environment that we're pulling, what environments that we're planning to do availability SLOs for, and then the host name is which is pretty much like, say in the case of this, is like, what is the name of the front end server that we have on our side, so we manage it. And then from there, the AutoSLO process uses that data and first creates a service file, service YAML, which is specifically based for that client and is tied to that specific project. And then while that is also being processed, it's also creating the actual SLOs for this client, or aka customer. And then from there, once they have been created successfully from the AutoSLO process, it actually connects to the Noble 9 platform. And then from there, it applies, well, not applies, it did Noble 9 platform ingest all that data into their platform and make sure that it had been uploaded successfully. And again, that is a high general level to connect to the Noble 9 platform. And yeah, this is like a workflow diagram for this. And then from the second part, well, actually, I just actually described the whole entire, what is the catalyst behind it. So again, the back end, when we say back end, that's pretty much like a database. So that's pretty much where all your data is stored. So so in this case, we use Snowflake database. Again, that's where all your data is stored, and you can have as much data or as little data as possible that needed to create a SLO. And then, yeah. So, and then number two, again, I was showing you where it says template hydration, which is pretty much, again, the standardization of YAML files for specific metrics that you're looking to capture and record. And also do make sure that your customer is able to actually making sure that you yourself, your engineering team is within what we call SLA, which is within their service level agreements. So we're making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to make sure that we're within the service level agreements. So that's how we create these type of files here called template hydrations. But again, that's a whole different discussion that's past this presentation today. Again, that's where with the template hydration, you can create project templates. We also do service templates as well. So yeah, there's a couple ways of doing that. And then the third catalyst, which is the Python code, where we actually do a lot of the gathering of the data. And then from there, we actually store it inside of in what we call panda data frames, which is essentially JSON formats. So yeah, but that's essentially, we just store all that data for temporary, then we use it. Then we manipulate that data to work with the YAML files that we have. And then from there, that's where you get all the nice YAMLs to actually create the SLOs to actually be pushed to Noble 9. And then the fourth one is the GitHub action, which was described earlier, which is essentially just instead of running each of these actions manually, you just run them in a set process, and then from there it just it just does an automated thing. And then from there, this is actually pretty much a sample SLO that's created via this process. So as you see, this is not actually their full UI, web UI, but I pretty much took some snapshots of some information that we are collecting currently at the moment. And that's how it looks from right here. And then again, if you want to get some info about the tools that we're using for AutoSLO, I actually put links inside of this presentation to for the actual database, for the e-guide for the database, the Noble 9 platform itself. This link right here will take you directly to Noble 9's website. And then this link right here will actually take you to their document page. for all their YAML files, data. How do you manage from different data connections? So say Elasticsearch, Grafana, Kibana, Datadog. Yeah, so they have documentation on all of that, and then also they have GitHub Actions, and then the third part is the GitHub Actions, where pretty much like, so if you want to run your process in a different way, yeah, so you can just set it up this way. There's different ways you can actually get this process going. So with that being said, any questions from the audience on at least AutoSLOs as of right now, except you?
Well, I'm gonna ask some questions anyway.
Go for it.
So in terms of scale, like how scalable, right? Like how scalable is the system that you guys have designed here, and like what's the upper bounds of what you plan to do with it?
To answer your question simply, you can go as small as say just one SLO for one customer for one environment, or we could go as many as 10,000. You go as large or as small as you like, whatever. But in this case, since we're using data from a database, we're using that as our what we're going to use as our scope. So you could go from 1 to 10,000. You could go from simple as just one SLO, or you can go as large as 10,000, or you could go even higher than that if you want to, and assuming that the platform that that the data is being ingested to can handle that type of workload.
Gotcha.
So it's not just, I mean, that's the simple answer, but it's a little more in the back end. Right. You have to make sure everything lines up properly.
So my second question would be, it's clearly well planned out and well thought out. How many iterations, and can you talk to us about how many iterations of the AutoSLO project has gone through in building it to get it to here? Like what kind of changes has your team had to make to get it here? Like, where did you start? Like, how did you decide where to start? What drives decisions around changing technologies, changing languages, prioritizing some features over others?
Okay. So originally when this idea came to be, it was originally written in Bash shell script, which was essentially the scripting language that I was most comfortable within two colleagues of ours, well, mine, when we were working on this from the get-go. At that moment, we really didn't want to sit here and like type these SLOs by hand. So we were trying to figure out what's the easiest solution to actually start automating this, just because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a lazy person. I like to be a lazy developer if I can. So if I can find a way not to do the same thing 10,000 times, and it takes me, I'm just going to be exaggerating, 10,000 hours, we're going to try to find a way to automate it that way. But essentially, it started out with shell processing. From there, and again, we were trying to automate as much of it as possible. And but then we come to figure out that Bash shell does not handle data well from, say, like a backend platform. So with Python being I consider more like the standard for when it comes to handling data, we decided to make that decision to go from Bash shell to Python, because, and then on top of that, it's actually easier to manage data manipulation with YAML files, JSON diagrams, and things like that. So Python became the choice script programming language to actually use to modify everything easily. So that's how we started there. When we first, and then this is like, now we're talking version 1.1. Originally, we actually had a spreadsheet with all the clients' names and all of the environments and front end server names on there. Quite truthfully, I thought that was crazy. So I was like, can we just plug this into a database? And that way, if we have the right SQL queries, that would be the easier way to manage it. That way we can, and my philosophy has always been anything hard coded, let's try not to do that. So so we did that. And then so we start removing things like things that are hard coded and try to get into a more plug and play model. So this is probably, and then now we're at what, version 1.3 or 1.4, where we're starting to remove all the things that we hard coded and try to make this possible. So where if we are able to actually open source this type of code, we can like essentially write some good documentation, a README file, and then just say, hey, this is how we done it within the context of our company. You can try to make it work. You can season it to how you want or need to in your company. And then, and hopefully it would be better to actually have open source community work with it versus say, just keep it internally. And yeah, that's, I've always been that type of person. So I'd rather prefer the collective helping versus just the few. So yeah, I know that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully you got the gist from that.
No, it's a great answer. So a follow-up question would be, you mentioned open sourcing it. And so does the team have plans to open source it directly or through an additional component in the SLO community?
As of right now, that remains to be seen. Only because we need to make sure that internally within our, internally that we make sure that it's okay, or if this is the plan within our company, that it's okay to actually open source the things that doesn't expose personal data within the company, making sure that we get all the okays before we actually open source I want to say the foundation of this process or application that we're looking to create. So it remains to be seen for right now. But my hopes is it does becomes open source where we can actually start doing things like that and get more active involvement from the SRE reliability community.
Awesome. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. Any more questions? No.
And I have still everyone muted for obvious reasons. So if people have questions, they can type them below in the chat. I haven't seen any questions yet, but we got some good ones already. Thank you so much for doing this, Wayne. You were amazing. I absolutely loved your talk. I cannot wait to share it on YouTube with the rest. That was a really good first talk. Thank you. I know it was your first time talking, but this was awesome. You sound like a pro.
Oh, it looks like Richard has a question, I think.
Let me see, Richard.
Is
Richard,
it in?
If you have a question, feel free to ask it on the chat.
Yeah, and I'll put a chat on my side of the window to take a look.
Yeah, I'm monitoring the chat too.
Okay, cool. Oh, I just want to say this has not been a single, like I've been the single person who's been working on this. So, shout out to like my colleagues, Jason, Alex Lynn, Andre Duarta, who else? Joel Guerrero, who's been our Python savior. Who else? Pretty much we can ask that guy anything, he'll somehow come up with a miracle for us. Who else? Philippe. Yep. So it's been a very
significant. It's a significant team that's been contributing to that. I think it also bears out to recognize Sal. So Sal's our CRE.
Yeah.
So Sal provides a lot of guidance.
Yep.
And Sal's provided not only guidance, has really helped the reliability engineering team kind of move relatively quickly. I should know the answer to this, but I don't.
Hold on, Sal. I can unmute you.
if we've got Sal in jail. Wayne, how long have you been working with SLOs?
When I started here back in September 2021, like slows and things like that, this was like the first time I've actually gone deep dive into it. I've always knew about it in IT in general, but never actually worked with it like deep dive.
I think that's one of the more impressive pieces of information about what you and the team have accomplished, that you were not deeply involved at a technical level with slows until it's been less than a year, and
Right.
This team has built something, an automation system around slows in less than a year. It's a pretty enormous engineering task to come up with something that didn't exist and bring it all the way to fruition. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, our personal plans is I've always been the proponent of, yeah, we're every time we try to work on improvements, we're trying to work on improvements to actually say, get to the point where if anybody wants to plug their tools into it, you can plug your tools into it. So that's always been our philosophy. So we're going to keep working at it and just keep plugging away at it. So yeah. Okay. I guess there's nothing. I guess there's no other questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to let Ehi, correct?
Yes.
Yes, I will let.
I'll,
Yeah, I'll let you handle it go from here.
thank you, Wayne. That was an awesome job. You did really well. Hope you know that.
Thanks.
And I will start sharing my screen. And one second. So I didn't have time, Ahi, to add all the images because we had quite a day here on Zoom. But I will go ahead and let you talk and share what you have to share today. So go ahead whenever you're ready.
Sure. So I wanted to give just share a few of my favorite talks from the last just concluded SLOconf, the SLO conference in May. So I have three of my favorite from the last conference. The first one is by Adrian, and it's ensuring reliability with burn rates. So this talk, she walks us with, first of all, she defines the various key terms we use in reliability. She starts with SLOs, error budgets, burn rates, etc. She gives a helpful guide on alerting, when to alert, how to do it such that you don't stress your developers and you don't stress your engineers and the team. She gives the difference between alerting on burn rates and alerting on error budgets and why you'd want to choose one or the other. Alerting windows as well, long and short windows. And then finally, she wraps it up with calculating burn rates. I really enjoyed this talk because it went from like really easy to like the super math stuff. So you can check that out. Then the second talk I like, it's because of the dogs really. So it's SLO for new dog owners. And it's really an introduction to SLOs. I can never run out of ways to enjoy SLO 101 because every time there is a new description, there's a new introduction, it's just like a new way to learn about SLOs. So Isabel starts this talk with a joke about canines, and I think that's the reason why I really like it. And then she goes on to explain how to inform your SLOs. So SLOs are informed by customers. So depending on the level of comfort or discomfort your customers are experiencing, that is how you set your error budget and adjust service thresholds. So there are a ton of cute stock pics as well. So you should check that talk out as well. Then the third one and my favorite is SLOs and not for SRAs. So this is like something I like preaching, and it's nice to have it like recorded and put somewhere on the internet that I can always refer people to. It's by one of our SLOconf campuses, Kasia. And she explains how other team members can leverage SLOs. So it's not just like specific, it's not some SRE language. She explains how team members can use SLOs for tracking software objectives, how to use data to make informed decisions about whether services are due for innovation or if stability should be prioritized. So this is a really great talk for people who, but just to say, this is not really an SR thing. It's not some super complex math geeky thing, and everyone can benefit from having an understanding of SLO. So those are my favorite talks from the last, from the just concluded conference, and I'm really happy to share it with everyone. So you should check them out. I'm going to drop the links in the comments, so please to check them out. Thank you.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you so much for taking your time to share the SLOconf talks. I know that we've had SLOconf was only a little bit over a month ago, and there were so many talks. It was a lot to digest at the moment, but all of them are still very relevant and very up to date. So I highly suggest anyone on this call that wants to learn about SLOs, no matter at what level, whether you're getting started or you want more of a technical side of it, please take a look at the SLO list that we have. Ahi and I will make sure to share the links in the chat.